I try to expose myself to outside world too. So that it's not only darkroom and dark studio place. To put all your cards for this system is like going, downhill with the eyes closed or something. If it's completely like a shared thing, it's the way to find mediocre pictures.
Today's visit is in the studio of Aapo Huhta, who is a Helsinki-based artist doing photography.
Yeah.
And you can tell us a bit more about it.
So I'm Aapo. I do photography, quite many things with it. Most recently a lot with the darkroom stuff. Sometimes I feel that actually the film is my medium and not the camera anymore. Somehow, because I've been like kind of doing a lot of experiments with like kind of treating the films in different ways and see how it can go into different directions.
Yeah, it's funny that I've talked with, I think, quite many people in photography so far. Somehow, I don't know, it just happens that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're the first one who is dealing with film, or predominantly with film. So
yeah, I think some parts of my process is also digital, or a combination of it. But I think it plays a big role to somehow find different ways to make the picture appear in the film itself.
And I'm really happy, honestly, that you are a photographer, because we had some problems with my camera, and we're shooting this video with your camera.
Yeah.
I hope everything goes fine and it's smooth.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
That's, where would be the fun in the process if things like this didn't happen. So, should we start maybe with a bit of your background? Where do you come from to be in the place you are now?
How far from, like, you?
Where did you go in your kindergarten?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I'm kidding. But did you know you would be an artist when you were a kid, for example?
No. I think I didn't have a clue when I was doing this. I remember this time in high school when the teacher was, I think it was the English class, and then the teacher was asking like what everybody would do. And I'm coming from the up north from Finland, like from the countryside, and then I was the only one who said that would like to go to like away from this town. And that was the moment I realized that it's actually possible and not everybody's doing the same somehow. But my ticket to Helsinki was that I applied to the University of Helsinki to study to become a teacher first. And I think I was not really planning to do that as a work, but that was just something that I kind of knew. And that time I was playing a lot of music with there was a band, and we were pretty active with also gigging and doing like recordings and stuff like that. And then at the same time I started to do the photography, and somehow.
What instrument were you playing there?
Guitar. So that was the time that I kind of realized that actually I could do something like this instead of to study to become a teacher, which is kind of funny that I'm actually doing a little bit of teaching today in art schools, somehow photography related stuff, but and I like it also, but I still consider it's kind of a side hustle too.
I mean, I completely understand the teacher thing. I have a degree to be a teacher also. It was kind of like a minor when I was doing my bachelor degree, and I did it just because I could. It was, free, and you could just add it to your other program. And I never had the intention also to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a little job that you take when you start teaching.
Yeah. I mean, I like to do it now, not full time. I never did it full time, but like to do every now and then like a course, because then you get to see the new students. You're somehow part of the schools and you see what's going on in there. But it takes a lot of energy to do it well, and somehow I always find myself in this position that it's kind of a spectacle that I'm kind of looking for with the course, or somehow like to do it really kind of seriously and like put all the effort, and it's kind of taking a lot of energy. So it's good to have it in.
Yeah, being a teacher is a little bit like being a doctor. It's not for everybody.
Yeah. But so that was the time when I started doing photography, and then I realized that I was using most of the time with the music and with the photography, and applied to study photography, and I got into Lahti University of Arts and Design or something like that. I don't know the word. I mean, it's been changing every second year, this name of the school, but I went there, and I think something really kind of happened, that I just found my place in there. Like, it felt that this is like a good place to be, and since that I've been doing it. And I think somehow I started with the somewhat kind of documentary tradition, and then it feels to me that I've been going all the time like further and further away from there. But that's kind of how I read photography, like through this kind of what's real and what's not, and that's my way to navigate through the all kind of pictures, I guess.
Well, I guess at the time you decided to go more towards the art, you were already kind of grown up enough that you didn't like need, because if you decide to become an artist very early on, it's good if you get some support from family and friends, or like family for sure. But how did they feel about your decision to go towards the arts?
There's not like it's not like a family tradition that we do in our family. So I think that was like a new field for them to explore. I think in the beginning they were maybe not really saying it aloud, that it's really kind of unsecure direction you're heading. But I also somehow I never thought it from that sense. I just was like super curious on that, and was not thinking too much about like how to survive or something like that. And then maybe only later on I kind of realized that I've been also, quite lucky with all the opportunities that I've been having, and but I've been also quite active on doing many things and so on. So somehow it's been going quite well, but I have not been worrying too much for some reason, and
that's pretty great. So you said that in your photos it's a little bit about what is real, what is not. Can you just tell me a bit more what your practice is about? Because I saw your projects that you have on your website, and they are kind of drifting there a little bit. Like I'm interested in that deformation that you're doing also of the image.
Well, how I see it is that I've been like, there's a lot of human figures in my pictures, but by the time it has all the time kind of developed into this more and more abstract, more and more kind of, I would say kind of simplified, but then at the same time when the image kind of simplifies itself, the things that still kind of stays in the picture become kind of bigger. But I'm really fascinated by this idea to simplify this frame, like what's in the picture, so much that I could kind of get rid of all the, somehow all the surroundings, like kind of to have only some kind of core elements in the pictures. And I mean, of course, you can do it like while you're actually making the picture, but then you can do a lot with, for example, with the chemistry, that you can use it to push the film into a certain direction, to kind of be able to create these abstractions, or to change things in the negative. So you can change it into that it becomes something else. But yeah, I sense that to have these human figures in my pictures, that's been kind of some kind of main element in there, and then it's going more and more towards abstraction.
Are you only shooting on black and white film, or are you using color film as well?
I'm also using color, but it's the developing process that kind of now kind of determines it. That with the black and white, somehow the feeling that you don't even...
It's a simpler process.
Yeah, it's so simple, and I'm not in completely darkness even when I'm developing, but I tend to have some light coming in, and it's quite flexible, so you can do so many things with it. And I'm using quite big negative size, so it's kind of physical thing also that I can have the negative in my hand.
Are you using the plates or?
Yeah, you mean the sheet film or?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 8x10 now that I'm using, and 4x5. So it's big enough that you can hold it in your hands while kind of developing. So it's there's so many things you can do with it. It's kind of fascinating.
And then you can make them really big afterwards.
Yeah. I think that's also one thing. But I think for me the more important thing is that like the negative itself is so big that you can have different kind of like how the light reacts to the negative itself, or how the chemistry touches the film surface is different than if it's like super tiny. It's like there's not too many drops you can put the liquid in, and it's already
So would you say that would be a main kind of theme in your work, although you said that the bodies you're kind of going a bit further from? What would be the main themes?
It's kind of hard to say, even I've been doing this for quite a while already, but somehow maybe it's just like scary to determine it. But I'm really interested in the image itself, like how photography happens and what it can tell and what it doesn't tell, and the limitations of it and these kind of things. It's happening at the same time, and then of course I'm having a subject in there. But for me, I made 3 books so far, and for me they are a little bit kind of, there is this kind of level of autofiction in there, that it's somehow quite strongly related to a certain time of my personal life, and it somehow grows from there. But then, of course, like my first book was about this kind of cityscape and how like the people's role in there, and that's a theme. And then the next one was kind of a retreat to like place as far away as kind of possible. And then this new one was this weird kind of transformation and becoming a parent, and like how it kind of challenges your identity. Somehow maybe they are different in the sense, but there's some similarities to somehow, it's part of my life, and kind of
I know, by all
navigating through that.
Drawing from your personal experiences,
it's kind of a way to deal with them somehow. Yeah.
So is the book like the main format that you are kind of?
I would say I really love them. I really like exploring them and collecting them, and kind of finding different structures in them, and also finding this kind of physical aspect of the book and how it can exist somehow, and how the physical and then the content can be kind of combined. So it's been like in the main focus somehow. But for me the book form is also something that how would I say it? It's like a tool for me to because I don't know. I think there's kind of like 2 kinds of artists. Maybe there's people who are doing like a project that they know what they are doing, and then they develop a concept for it. And then for me, it's all about kind of the mystery that I like. While I'm doing the pictures, I allow myself that I don't completely understand what I'm doing. And I think the project is kind of ready when I know. that this is actually the core of it. But I really like to be in this kind of dark, to have this kind of question mark in there, that like I'm not sure what this is about, but then there's something that interests me, and if I do it like long time enough, then I kind of can figure it out, and somehow it finds its shape. And this is like my approach, and for that the book form is good, because somehow while I'm already making these books, I'm kind of finding a book form for it, and it's like a tool for me to understand like what this is about somehow.
Yeah, no, I completely am here with you, like on the trust the process thing. Maybe I'm a little bit in between. Like, I want to have some initial, at least vague idea, but then it completely fully forms during the process and not beforehand.
Yeah.
That's also, the fun of it.
Yeah. But then, for example, this latest book that I had, I like the pictures because it includes like these pictures of these human figures who are without the clothes, and like how we did the pictures is that people are jumping in the trampoline in the dark space, and you don't see the trampoline, and then the film developing creates this kind of weird black void in there. But then this was really experimental with the people, and when I met these people to be photographed for this project, I didn't understand completely what this was all about, and then they trusted me like so much that they were so kind of open and bold to be part of this. And I felt that I had this huge responsibility to also somehow keep them with me along the way, like while I figure out like what this is about. And I think it was like most frightening thing that was happening to me with my whole career when I was showing these pictures, because they are like aesthetically, they are also it's not only kind of pleasing, but they show these human bodies in really kind of fragile way too. So it was really kind of frightening for me to show this and then to talk about it. But I also felt that that's my work that I need to do, that we need to share these things, and people have also the possibilities to say that this is not something they want to participate on. But I think what happened with these pictures, that they went so far away from the real life that there were some people who were saying that it's actually easier to be photographed in this way than to be in the passport photo, because the passport photo is so real, so it shows you, and it's kind of the purpose is to show you, and sometimes it's not so easy for us to face the way how we look.
For sure.
But then in these pictures, they are so, like the bodies are so distorted that they are not really themselves anymore. And we also had like a lot of fun while doing this. Like it was really kind of a little bit weird but funny situations when we were making these pictures. But then like how to explain like the whole concept, and also like where the pictures will be and so on. So it's like there's a lot of work to be done to take care of these people, to understand the whole thing. And I think that was the kind of the biggest, maybe also kind of something that I also learned that you can actually do, because I somehow had the feeling that today's time is really like people are really kind of careful on somehow I sense it also when I'm teaching, that people are so careful on what we can do and what we can't do, that it kind of limits ourselves not to explore too many things, but like we always kind of want to be on the safe side. And if you read about the artist statements in many galleries or exhibitions, like somehow I have the feeling that it like everybody starts like trying to say that I look at me like I did the right thing, and everybody's kind of afraid of to be somehow judged by what they do. And
because they are usually judged.
Yeah, exactly. But I sense somehow with this project that it's actually possible to do things that somehow go to this kind of gray area, that you don't know what this is about. Also be open that sometimes you don't know and that it can kind of, the whole thing can grow by time, and you can share it.
Has this project been published or exhibited somewhere?
Yeah, it's been in Finland, in Helsinki. It was in Galleria Heino a year ago, like August 2023, and then it's been in Norway a little bit after that, and now it's going to be in a few other places in Finland and in France. With one project, it takes, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years to be done, and then now I'm somehow kind of figuring out like what to do next, and like doing different things, but I'm not really sure how it will end up or what will come out of it. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of good to have this slightly older work that you can have the exhibitions in different places with it, and it kind of has its own life cycle. And now it's time for the Gravity series to kind of circulate a little bit, which is, I think it's nice.
Yeah, for sure. And not only did people in those places didn't see it before when you, for example, exhibited it in Helsinki. For them it's completely new. It's not an old work.
Yeah. And I mean,
you're not talking about things that are expiring or something.
Yeah, and somehow I think it was the last year that I had like some of the works from the blog series. That was kind of my first. It was my first book, and it was the work that I graduated with from Aalto when I was doing my master's, 2015. So it's been almost 10 years that it's been circulating, and it still kind of lives its own life, which I think it's kind of nice because you kind of somehow, at least I tend to react on the work in a more or less serious manner. That, I mean, with the installation you can try different things, and compared to the first time you're doing it, I was having the first exhibition with this block series in photographic in Stockholm, and it was like a huge pressure like to do it right, and somehow now when I do it, like I try different things, and you find this kind of lightness or something like that in there. But it's also nice to see how you react on the work that you did like 10 years ago, because of course you're not the same person anymore, and so it's kind of nice to see how it evolves and how it's also like kind of one way to navigate in the map, that you see that this was the person I was like 10 years ago, and now I'm maybe somewhere here and going into maybe this direction or that direction and so on.
Don't you get tempted to change the work?
No, not really. I mean, of course there are some things that I would do differently, and I'm happy that I have this feeling, because I think that would be the scariest thing, to be like super happy about like I'm so proud of this work and so on. But I think it's a matter of like kind of accepting what you did back then, and that you try to make it as good as possible, and that was you back then. So it's always like looking at the mirror, but your kind of younger self, which is it's kind of interesting, I think. So somehow I think by some years I've been kind of realizing that it's also it's kind of part of the process to let the work then live its own life after it's ready. But for me, I think the most difficult thing with the work that is ready is that my mind is somewhere else, so it's kind of difficult to relate. For example, with the Gravity work, when it was done, then somehow to be honest, I kind of lose the interest in the work itself, because my mind is already asking like what I'm gonna do next, and what's the next kind of exploration, or it's a combination of curiosity but also kind of fear if you can find something, or if this was the end, or it's kind of
it's always feeling when you end the project that okay, now I have to start from scratch.
Yeah. And I mean, somehow I like it because it's good for your mind. It keeps you kind of
on edge.
On edge, and somehow I think it also keeps you kind of humble in a good way, that you kind of understand that that's the way it works, that you really need to find it like something new. But then I think there's some kind of melancholic feeling in there too. So it's kind of weird that somehow for me, every time I'm having an exhibition opening with a new body of work, it's not just like a joyful, I mean, of course it's nice to have the party and see all the people and share the work, but there's something deeply melancholic about it. It feels like like an autumn somehow. Yeah, that's
interesting.
That's the way it is for me. And I mean, I've been doing it for a few rounds already, so usually it takes me some months to kind of, it's not easy every time to come up with something new out from, you need to kind of find a hole from the where you are at. Yeah.
Yeah, and I usually ask people about the creative block, if they have had that at some point. Have you had that?
I guess in different stages, different ones. I learn to trust that if there's kind of, I like to think the process that if there's a movement, then there's a reaction to the movement. So, for example, now when I'm making these kind of pictures, there's some new ones on the wall. For example, when I'm doing these works, like one thing that I'm kind of pushing myself is to keep doing them, and even that I don't know, but I have the feeling that I'm still like kind of like trying out different things and then reacting to them, so that I can make few pictures and then I see like if there's something for me. But I think it's kind of different, like if you only think about the picture that doesn't exist, so I need to do the actual picture to be able to look at it and then see what this is about. So I try to block the block by doing things.
Block the block. That would be a great title.
Yeah. But I really believe that if there's like movement in the process, that you're actually making pictures, you're making images, then there's new thoughts all the time. Like you're thinking something, you're kind of reacting to something. But I think the most kind of challenging part is like if you stop doing, because then the block is getting bigger. But I somehow, how I see it is that I think what I like the most in my work is to actually make the pictures.
It's funny that you're saying that, I mean, in your case for sure it is making the pictures, not taking the pictures. Yeah. But somehow to make these pictures is the core for me. And I think that kind of keeps me out from this, that I'm having this block, because usually now when I'm having this family life with 2 kids and so on, I think there's always like a natural rhythm for someone to do their work, and I tend to have pretty active, pretty intense work, and I really like this like really kind of intense way of having like really super long days at work, and then like finding the movement and finding something new and being able to do it until the end. And for example, with this Gravity series, I put my kids my child, that was back then when I only had my daughter, but I put my daughter to bed, and then I went to the darkroom like from 9 p.m. to, I don't know, 2 a.m. And I really like this kind of physical experience of being kind of tired with like after the day, and really kind of pushing myself to certain kind of limits. And if I can do it, like let's say, for me the holidays are the most challenging times, because then I can't be able to do this, and then my kind of rhythm goes slower, and I sense this kind of anxiety in me that in these moments. So I really kind of try to keep up with my natural rhythm, but with this young kids, it's changing it, and it's having its own kind of limitations, which I think it's also good, and I really want to be part of that. So I think it's kind of finding the combination between these two things in life that are both are like. How old are they now?
My daughter is 4 and my son is 6 months. So, but I think like I really want to keep like both sides of this life with me, and to find this natural rhythm is not always the easiest thing, but I also understand that it's only for some years it's going to be like this, and then I think I can find my natural rhythm and the intensity again. Yeah.
So you would rather work in the evening than in the morning, or does it matter?
These days I do actually. I come here every morning around 9 o'clock, and because of the daycare, so I have kind of office hours, and then sometimes I also work in the night with the darkroom stuff. But that's my rhythm these days. But I'm pretty precise with my work days.
Do you come every day?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean not on weekends, but like five days a week. That's my rhythm. But I think it's the way for me to keep the movement and keep me kind of going. Yeah.
Do you shoot the photos here, or do you go to other places usually? Of course, you develop it here, but
yeah, it depends. And I also develop at the Mörk darkroom, which is the kind of the collective darkroom space in Vallila. But I
heard
do
about that.
Yeah, and that's where I do the printing of the black and white. But yeah, I shoot here. Actually, I think these days I shoot a lot at studio, because somehow it fits to my process for now. But I used to travel like super a lot. But that's also, I mean, it has changed with the family life, but it's also having this ecological side that that I think I did it already my share somehow. I mean, not of course completely, but I think it to be kind of far away to make these pictures is not something I want to keep doing anymore. But I mean, I make pictures outside too. Sometimes it's scary when you're in the studio environment for a long time and you can kind of have the control on everything, and then it's like easier to find this kind of simplification in the pictures that I'm doing in the studio, because it's kind of having the full kind of control. But yeah, I try to expose myself to outside world too, so that it's not only dark room and dark studio place.
Yeah, there is the thing with controlling photography quite a lot, I think.
Yeah, and somehow it's kind of funny to find from yourself this need to control like what it actually tells about you and like the picture you're making. And it's kind of funny that also at the same time when I'm doing this kind of experimental darkroom stuff, it's all about kind of losing control, because you kind of
have to.
Yeah, and it's kind of the whole point of it is something that you can. It's like a discovery that you can find something like, oh, this happened, and so on.
How did you turn to film photography, or did you start with film in the beginning?
I started with the digital when I came to Helsinki, but I was interested in film photography at the same time, like early on, and then at school I was doing mostly film stuff, and it's been all the time. But I also do digital photography at the same time. Sometimes, you know, if I don't have a grant or something, then I do commissioned work, like I do portraits for some magazines or publishing houses or something like that. So I do both, but somehow there's something in the film itself. Maybe it also has something to do with the amounts that, like the amount I'm still making the pictures. Well, I don't know. I think, for example, the Gravity series was something like some hundreds of rolls, and then a lot of these sheets also. But it's not something like, you know, if you're a staff photographer in a newspaper and you do films every day, like some decades ago, like maybe you get kind of sick of the process. But somehow, I don't know. There's something with this kind of discovery
it's a mindset that somehow some people are very attached to the film. Yeah. Once you get attached to it, it's really like you stay there.
Yeah, yeah. There's something in there, and the way the picture is kind of appearing, and just the grain structure somehow it interests me like super a lot, and the way it reacts to the light in different stages of development, for example, or like if you expose the, as you normally do, that you expose the negative and then you develop it, but then you can kind of expose the negative to the light in different stages of the process and so on. So there's like, I still feel that I'm really kind of a beginner with this exploration. Also like that the grain can become, it can kind of combine with the content of the picture. And sometimes, for example, with this second book that I had, this Omatan Angola, which is sort of the desert, and then when you make these pictures of the sand, you don't know if it's like the
grain or the sand.
Yeah, and somehow these kind of things, when they kind of come together or kind of blend in, it's I don't know, there's some kind of fascination that I find like really kind of interesting. And these newer works where the film is playing even bigger role, because for example this Gravity series that was shot against the kind of black background, and then the film is actually creating the space in there. It's kind of
looks like outer space.
Yeah, but it's also kind of interesting to think like what's more real, like if it's the actual image in there or if it's like the film. It's like if the film is kind of the document, or
what is real is a core question in my practice, and it's like so vast.
Yeah.
I don't think we can really answer properly.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's really possible even, but it's like it's just interesting to play around with these elements and like see, like put them on different kind of order and see what comes out of that, and that somehow interests me. Like when I kind of think about photography, that some part of me is interested in the photography itself, like what it can tell and what it can't, and the limitations and the possibilities and so on. So it's all somehow in there, but it's not something that I'm actually kind of looking for the answer, but more like
playing around
and kind of seeing what kind of topics can be raised through that somehow, maybe.
You said you were teaching in Aalto. You're teaching?
No, I've been teaching at the Fine Art Academy in Helsinki.
What do you teach there?
It's a photo book class. Yeah, every second year, and then I've been for a long time. I've been in this Lahti University of Arts and Design, teaching different things from documentary, photography to the graduation work and so on.
Why I was mentioning the teaching is that I was wondering if the students somehow affect your work, your personal work.
I think they do. I think it's not easy to kind of determine like specific things in there, but I think it's really kind of challenges my way of thinking about things, and somehow we all have the experience of this society with our own generation, and now the students and me are having, I don't know, more than 10 years, most often 10 years of kind of age difference.
Different generation.
Yeah, so it's a different generation, and they have a different experience on this society, and the way they react to these surroundings is interesting to me, and I think it's good to kind of be challenged in this way. And also like to see what they are interested in and how they see my work and my interest and so on. So this kind of sharing, that's I think the kind of the main reason I'm doing it. And also with this photo book making class, we did it for the first time a few years ago, and I think it affected quite much actually to my latest book somehow, that I was also kind of able to set myself kind of more free with some structures of the book, that like somehow I think, at least I tend to have this kind of invisible limitations, like how the book can be, how my own book can be, and then when you're teaching exploring it kind of more in a more wide way. And when you're teaching this, then it also gets back to you and your own process, that you start to challenge your kind of stereotypes with the book, like how it should be or how it shouldn't be and so on. So it definitely gives
it's refreshing, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me somehow how I mean, probably it's natural that photographers lean towards photo books. I have the feeling here in Helsinki, I have noticed that. Like artists from different disciplines don't. I mean, there are artist books which are a little different than photo books, I think.
I think so, yeah. I think it's.
But it's not so much as photographers are into the books.
You think it's not so much, or
for artists in other disciplines?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's something. I think the kind of photo book scene. It has been pretty active on few decades, and like the development in different kind of printing methods, and also like the narratives and the structures in the books. What can you tell with the photo books and only photos inside? For example, if there's no text in the book, like how the kind of theme or the content kind of evolves, these kind of things. Like there's been a lot of emphasis on these kind of things, and somehow I think photography kind of fits to this kind of exploration. So I think it's pretty active scene, and I think I definitely agree that it's like this kind of artist books. It's a different. It's a different thing completely. Like usually you have, like if you have a museum show, you might have a kind of a catalog type of thing, or like a retrospective kind of artist book and so on. Or then maybe there's, of course there's a lot of books that are kind of like in the book form, that it's like the whole concept is to make a book that is somehow...
It's funny how, this is a pure coincidence now that I'm talking with you now, and my previous guest, the episode is about to come out soon. We were also talking about books and photo books and artist books, and it's different perspectives different people have on the book as a thing, as an object in itself. Yeah. So yeah, this is funny. Yeah. Funny to observe as well.
Yeah. For me, it's also like a tool to explore what I'm doing, but I don't know, somehow I have the feeling that the exhibition thing, like to show the works in the like somehow they are quite different kind of entities.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you prefer the book or the exhibition, or?
I prefer both, I'd say. I mean, somehow I like the idea. It seems to me like the natural rhythm for me is that I work on something for some years, and then if there's a book, then there's an exhibition kind of simultaneously. It's not something that I maybe would like to keep all the time the same. Maybe some project can work only as an exhibition or only as a book or something. But so far it seems to me that it's kind of going quite well together. And it's also kind of, it has a little bit something to do with the project management, in the way that while you're kind of making the book, like once the pictures for the book are ready, then there's a kind of a long designing and publishing process with it. And it's also like if you do the exhibition planning at the same time, it has its kind of own advantage that you can do it at the same time. So there's kind of a lot to do when the actual pictures are done. And it takes a year or maybe sometimes even 2 to actually have the book in your hand after I think my latest book came out like a year ago, and I think the pictures were ready more than a year before that. So it takes a lot of with this designing process, and then the exhibition planning and so on. And also with the grants, and like to find a way to fund the whole thing and so on. So
yeah, another thing I usually ask people is how they sustain their practice.
So
how they sustain their practice, how do you manage to still be an artist and have a family and live?
Yeah, I think it comes. People have such. I think, especially these days, I think people have such like different standards for the living, and I mean, with the kids, you need to. It changes. Like I used to have this kind of idea that the less you spend, the more free you are, and you can keep your things. You can keep doing them with a really little amount of money. But then, of course, with the family, it changes a little bit because you need to take care of other people too. For me, it has been worked so that I've been on the grant period every now and then, but it's not like a continuous thing, and I think it's not for
course.
And there's a lot of kind of unsecurity if you can get the next one, or if there's like a break, and it's kind of something that I've been like recently kind of thinking if I really want to be dependent on the grant system, or if I should find some other ways, because it's really energy consuming, but also to be in this really kind of unsecure position all the time. Or if you do like you publish a book and it goes well and everything goes well, and then the end is like you don't have the money coming anymore, and like you feel like unemployed somehow after that. It's mentally like if you do it,
it's draining. It's definitely draining. When you mentioned also you have some commissions going on once in a while,
I know. I think with the photography, it's maybe as a medium, it's maybe kind of easier to find these kind of side hassle things with it. It's not really energy consuming, but it somehow I think I get something out from this kind of encounter. So I've been doing a lot of portraits for some magazines and some publishing houses and so on, and it's one way to do. I mean, it takes the time, of course. So you're with your art, like practice. When you're practicing the art, it slows down a little bit. But then it's kind of a compromise that if I do like a shoot once a week or something, I can kind of find my way to then focus for the 4 days. I can focus for my own things, and then the teaching somehow also. So, but I think it's like bits and pieces from different places. And sometimes it's stressful. Then you also think about like that you're aging, and like if you can do this for how long and so on. There's many kind of insecurities.
But I mean, is it really stable if you have a job? You can always get fired, or they can have financial troubles and sack you off. Something.
Yeah. So I think I kind of learned to accept this kind of windy situation, that it's all the time changing, and you know only a little bit beforehand what's going to happen and so on. And to have this grant is just like great. But then I like in the really kind of long-term thing, I'm not sure if I want to be dependent on that. And now with this government that we are having, it's even
definitely
more unstable.
You don't have to choose. It's kind of obviously very unstable situation.
Yeah. So to put all your cards for this system is like going downhill with the ice scores or something. So but I think I've been lucky enough with this that for me it's not so energy consuming, but I think it's more kind of positive to meet someone. We make the pictures, we share something, and then if I can make my living every now and then with this, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, and then moving from the topic of having a commission to do a portrait of somebody to your personal work, when you also shoot people. Mm-hmm. You apparently like to do this kind of, can you call it a collaboration when you're having different people in your work? Maybe not.
It depends. Like with the video work that I did recently, that was part of the Gravity series, like in the exhibition form. I call that as a collaboration because I was kind of relying with this professional dancer and the expertise he was having. So that's definitely a collaboration. And then, I mean, there's different levels of collaboration every now and then, but then I think it still has a lot to do with that I'm kind of the image maker in the situation, and I mean,
and you're kind of guiding the process and doing the decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, I tend to be quite open about like what I'm after and so on, because there's always this kind of level of being in power when you're behind the camera and there's someone in front of you, and it can be really sensitive also, and I try to be kind of open about it and so on. But it's in there too, and I think the picture, it can be also like a good thing, because the big picture can be so much more interesting. And I mean, sometimes of course the collaboration can be also nice, but for my personal taste, like if it's completely like a shared thing, it's the way to find mediocre pictures, like quite often, because it's not like the direction is not so sharp, like it goes in so many directions, and maybe the experience of being photographed can be more pleasing. But I also tend to kind of challenge this idea if to be photographed needs to be a nice thing. I mean, not that it should be something painful or something like that, but it's in fact actually when somebody's making a picture of someone, it's like looking at like how you are, and it's a sensitive thing. And you can do it in a good way, or you can do it also like completely in the wrong way. But I don't know if we should really aim for that. It's like if you want to go to amusement park or to a party, you can do that. But it's like when you're making the picture, it's not in the core. The core is to find something that you find meaningful in this situation. And sometimes it can be also coming from this insecurity, or there's a lot of like this kind of fragile emotions in there, and sometimes I also have them when I'm making the picture, but I'm not looking for kind of comforting or kind of pleasing things necessarily, and it's not what I'm kind of after. It's not that I want to do it like I think most often my experience is that we have a good time while we are doing it, but it can still be kind of sensitive thing, and that we share something, and totally different than if you go to amusement park.
Yeah, and people are very different, so you have to somehow tune yourself also probably sometimes to your subject. Yeah,
and I mean, of course there's like everything comes from the kind of to respect each other and the one you're photographing, and to find something from there. But then it's a talking game in the way that like the way I describe the situation or what I'm after usually charges the situation also for my visitor who's in front of my camera, that what we are actually doing here. So if I say that I'm looking to find something meaningful from you, and then it kind of charges the situation in a certain way, and so on.
You put some pressure on the.
In a way, yeah, but I think that's kind of the core of like, if I want to photograph you, then I want to find something from you. It's I think that's kind of my work in there. But I don't want to do it in a definitely I don't want to do it in a bad way or like harmful way or something. But I sense, especially these times when you have this social media presence all the time, like there's a huge pressure on being pictured in a certain way, and I really want to challenge this, because I think it's the most boring way to, like, everybody's looking the same, and like if you think about like from the like history perspective, that what kind of pictures there will be from this time on how people were, and I think it tells a lot about us if you go there. And then I think there's no need for me to make these pictures. Like there's already like infinite stream of these pictures, and there's absolutely nothing that interests me. Or there's something like it interests me in the bigger scale. Like if this is how we want to be portrait, or what can we share with this way. But like this kind of weird visual competition, I don't really agree with that.
So how do you use social media?
I usually don't have any apps in my phone, but there's an exception when I'm having the exhibition or something. Then I use it as a promotion and I remember I kind of started when there were like these kind of my name, like these accounts with my names on like so many, so I wanted to kind of reserve one for myself to have some kind of control out of it. But I want to keep it as limited as possible. I don't really I mean, I know that some people can make their living out of it, and I mean, who cares, but I don't really want that to influence to my practice. Yeah, somehow there's someone inside me who says that I really hoped it wouldn't exist, but I'm not in control for that, so I need to adapt.
When I was reading about your work on your website, there was one of the books which said it was a collaboration. Have you had like collaborations that were more like on an equal level with other artists?
Yeah, we had this one, and we were quite independent with the way we made pictures, and we shared every now and then. We shared like what we've been doing. We had this morning, like this long morning coffee sessions, and we were talking about many things, but also about this project. And it was long time, like we made these pictures over the years and so on. And then I had one kind of older collaboration with few artists that we were exploring this kind of remote area in Finland, in the north or northeast of Finland, kind of collecting these stories, and then we were making these pictures, and then we made like an exhibition round with this work.
Do you have some specific ways to get into your work, like some routines when you come to do your work?
I'm not sure. I think the routine is to come to the studio in the morning and leave the studio after you've done something and you've been kind of like, I try to do every day. I try to make some steps towards something, so that it's like there's movement in the process. So I think that's my routine. And I think I'm really happy with these days that I actually make pictures. Like that gives me the kind of the strength that there's something really happening. But I mean, of course, there's days that I'm only with my computer doing exhibition planning and emails. But lately I've been trying to do so that I only answer my emails like every second day. That I don't go to my laptop, because it takes an hour or two from the work time that you just writing everything and so on. But I mean, you can do it in clusters every week. But that's sometimes when you feel that it's taking kind of too much time. But I come here, and I have this list. Actually, I also have this routine to write emails to myself when I'm in the bus, or sometimes I'm biking or something, and it's just like these ideas that comes to your head.
And you write yourself an email?
I mean, I think the wisest thing would be to do like notes, or there's better things, but I write emails. I write maybe 15 emails a day for myself, but just like quick notes. And then they are there. I'm kind of safe. And then...
Do you reply to them?
No. I try to collect these ideas to this kind of lists that I'm having in my computer. And then if I'm coming to my studio and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, then I will like go through the list and then continue with these. But most often I have something that's I'm in the middle of process. For example, now I have some plans in my backpack and here, which I will do something in the afternoon, and let's see what comes out of it. And then there's this kind of infinite list of ideas, but also some specific ideas for pictures, but also some kind of themes that this could be. So it's kind of all the time in my head, and then I try to articulate it with some words when writing email to myself. Yeah.
That's fascinating. I've never heard of this system, but I think if it works for you, amazing.
Yeah, it's not the best, but because I try to keep my email clean so that there's no kind of hundreds of emails. So when I write this, it's kind of giving me this pressure to write it down to some kind of better place. Yeah, but I agree it's not the best way to do things.
I mean, why not? If it works for you, it works for you. Yeah. Is there like a objective best way to do things? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh wow. This is my favorite part of having these conversations. Something new pops up. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is just amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's turn towards the studio space a little bit. So, when I contacted you for the first time, you said you just moved to a new studio space. So it's this one.
Yeah.
How big is it? How long have you been here?
For now, yeah, I moved just before the summer, and there's still some little things that I will change and so on, but I can already work here. But this is something like 30 square meters, and it's part of the process that I've been into this kind of collective workspaces for. I actually never had like a workspace only for myself before this, and I've been having, it's been kind of like every now and then the place changes or the group is kind of changing a little bit, and usually it has started with the group of friends who are somehow, we've been sharing some things also in the work and so on. But it's kind of happening when you get older that the people there's a lot of, I think, people like my friends who now have their own workspaces, and also people don't want to share it, and like they have more kind of specific needs for them, because once you get your first workspace, you're kind of open to anyone or anything, or you don't know what it's going to be and so on. But I think the more time you work in this way, you also start to define your actual needs with the space, and also like what it means socially with this to share this workspace. And for me to be in this kind of shared workspace, the main idea is also to have a little bit kind of social, kind of a community, like a work community. And then I think it's not so easy to find this kind of collective
the right
anymore.
People
the right people, so to say, for that. And then I decided to look for the opportunity to have like the space for myself only. But I've been actually considering, because now I'm having this kind of small studio space, I can do most of my stuff in this place. And if I don't really have like huge productions or so on, but I have thought about that if I need a bigger place, then I just need to rent it. But I can do most of my things in here. And then at some point I had this idea that maybe I could actually not to openly kind of rent this place out, but with some of my friends, if they need like a place to do like a smaller photo shoot or have a studio space, I can kind of rent it out or something like that. But I'm not really sure if I will do it, or it's kind of undefined yet. But so far, I like it here. I like the neighborhood a lot. It's kind of awkward because to be on the floor level and with this kind of big windows to the street. Because
this is kind of a shop. Probably was at some point.
Yeah, it used to be a barber shop actually.
Oh.
Yeah, for a long time. yeah, so it's definitely it's something that I need some time to adjust to be like on the. It feels a little bit kind of more to be in the kind of public space, even though I mean, of course, I have this system to cut every like all the lights and to kind of be to control the lights and like the visibility and so on. But somehow still to be like really next to the street and so on feels.
It's very exposed. Different. Like the window is giant.
Yeah, which is also, I mean, you get like a really nice natural light, and you can also control the light with 2 windows with the curtains in a good way. I was just making a portrait of one author for a publishing house like some weeks ago, and it was using the natural light for the first time, and I think it's really really nice, and you can kind of control the size of the window and the kind of the directions with them, like with two windows. So I think it's quite nice. But I think I'm still in the moment of kind of adjusting to a new place. And my previous place was, I think, on the 4th floor in somehow kind of inside place, so there was no street level feeling, and that's I think something that I need to adjust to be able to, I don't know, somehow it changes. But I also kind of have this idea that it can be also a nice thing to be exposed to your surroundings, and somehow this neighborhood is kind of, it can affect to my work, or at least my life in this place and so on. So
probably
nice. Yeah.
Probably
yeah,
we are shooting right now with natural light. I hope we don't have too much of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a sunny day, so it's a possibility.
Yeah.
What do you like the most about the space? Is it this exposure thing, or is it something else?
I think it's more in the practical level that when I've been having these kind of collective workspaces, usually after the day I need to clean up the studio space. So before I was in this place that I had the working table that was in the kind of collective side, and then we had the studio, and we had this booking system for the studio that you can book it, but usually after the day you clean it to have the next one in and so on. So the big change now is that I can actually be more messy in the way that I can continue the next day and so on. It's still a little bit of like in the process of defining like how much I want to keep it as a studio, or how much I want to keep it as a workspace. But I think it changes every now and then based on what I'm doing. If I'm doing printing, or if I need like a lot of paper or like messy works, then I can keep it completely like open space and have only like a table for cutting things and so on. And if I want to have like a light setup when making some pictures, then I can do this also. So I think it's pretty flexible. It's not overly big, but I think it's nice, and I think it's also has something to do that you want to find this level of pricing and the amount of space you have, and the combination of that is
of course.
Yeah, but I'm quite happy about it now, and it's kind of nice this stage that you're kind of figuring out like how to develop the space a little bit and so on, like what to bring in and how to change things. Yeah.
Is everything that all your work here, or do you have some other storage space somewhere?
Then we have, with my friends, we have this storage space for the artworks, which is nearby here, but then I don't need to keep them here.
How important is it for an artist to have a space like this, like a studio space? For you, of course, for photo shoots and all, you have to have somewhere to do it, but generally. But
I think it's also somehow has something to do with the identity. That it's like there were some months that for example, when I was abroad for a longer time, and then I didn't have the studio in Finland or here in Helsinki, and then there were like few months that I was doing my work from home, and quite fast I got into this mood that it feels a little bit kind of sticky or somehow unprofessional. For me, for me. I mean, it can work for some people for sure, but I have the feeling that then like it gets so close to all the other aspects of life that it doesn't I feel that, you know, I come to work like actually like physically I bike to my workspace, and then I'm here to do the work, and then I go away, and like it gives this kind of structure in there. So in this sense I think it plays a role, and I think especially because now in my life I have this 2 kids, and the family life, it takes a lot of how would I say, space also mentally, that, you know, I try to keep it so that I don't work at home. I don't use the computer so much at home, sometimes of course a little bit, but I try to make everything here, and then when I'm done, then I'm for my kids and for my family. And if I would do it at home, I think it would get really kind of messy, and it kind of blurs the lines between the work and the family life. And I think it's also nice for my kids to see that when I'm there, I'm like present and I'm with them, and of course there's like in your mind there's something, but I try to keep this kind of limit.
Are there some other places where you gather some inspiration?
Some artists that I find that they are doing something really cool. For some reason there's some musicians that comes to my mind. I'm a big fan of Adrian Lenker from Big Thief, an American band. She's constantly writing, and the way she uses words is something, just like really amazing human being, I think. Somehow the name Sirkku Rossi, who's a painter, comes to my mind also. Her figures are really amazing. The way I think she uses kind of watercolor.
Interesting that you mentioned watercolor. Like now I'm thinking about your work. Could be like a watercolor photography a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it's true.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank
you for this talk. That's all. No, Good luck with the exhibitions that are upcoming, and keep up the work.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.